So Frankenstein is a proponent, in a way, or has an appreciation for the sublime. And even though when he goes to create a living being, he's trying to create, he thinks, something that is beautiful in the formal sense, he ends up creating something that could only be considered beautiful, if at all beautiful, as a kind of sublime, transcendent kind of beauty. And of course, that's the irony, because there is nothing beautiful about this monster whatsoever. In trying to make it perfect, he undermined any possibility that it would have of being formally beautiful. So notice the language that he uses when he talks about his intentions in creating the monster. How can I describe my emotions at this catastrophe? He asks Walton. Or how delineate the wretch whom with such infinite pains and care I had endeavored to form? His limbs were in proportion, and I had selected his features as beautiful. Beautiful, great God! His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of a lustrous black and flowing, his teeth of a pearly whiteness. But these luxuriances only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes, that seemed almost of the same color as the dun white sockets in which they were set, his shriveled complexion and straight black lips. Now that I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart. And Frankenstein sort of faints and sleeps and has a terrible dream that he's kissing Elizabeth, except that she fades immediately, and he realizes that he is kissing the corpse of his mother. So that his attempt to grasp beauty turns into the opposite, this kind of horror, because his way of trying to grasp life is to avoid death, and you just can't do that. So if the model of, which is associated in at least Mary Shelley's presentation, the model of beauty that is being espoused here sounds very much like the sublime, and a kind of, and Mary Shelley thinks that it's not beauty. The sublime leads to ugliness and horror and monstrosity. There has to be a different model of beauty that she prefers to it, and a model of creativity that will produce much better results than this striving after perfection that Frankenstein and Walton had. And I believe that the model that she believes in is one that involves sympathy, reciprocity, and identification between the creator and the creation. That inevitably, when one creates, whether one creates a child or one creates a work of art, one is creating an image of oneself, as she presents it here. And that, as the monster told Frankenstein, entails responsibilities to what you create. You must recognize yourself in what you create. You must look in that pool of water and not reject it. You must see that you are reflected in your work of art, and you must love that creation insofar as you can love yourself. Frankenstein and the monster say the same words and reflect the same ideas over and over again in this. Frankenstein says that he was always entranced by causes. He was always wanting to find the cause of things, and then eventually he realizes that all the troubles in his life that come about are caused by him. He says, and I the cause. And he says, I bore a hell within me. But the creature also says, I, like the arch-fiend, bore a hell within me. I mean, he uses exactly the same words. And finding myself unsympathized with, wished to tear up the trees, spread havoc and destruction around me, and then to have sat down and enjoyed the ruin. So in other words, he, unsympathized with, wants to inflict the same kind of destruction on the creation around him that Frankenstein wanted to inflict on his own creation. And the constant fact about Frankenstein, the book, that everybody mixes up the monster and the person who creates him, calling the monster Frankenstein constantly, is thus, you know, a mistake that we can understand in a way. I mean, it's like the way one talks about a Picasso or a Rembrandt. The monster is a Frankenstein, which is to say that you are what you make. You are you are what you create in that way, and you better realize that and take responsibility for that and love that if you're going to have a good life for yourself. So the idea of sympathy or empathy, as we might put it nowadays, is a crucial aesthetic as well as emotional idea in this book. And the creature is constantly complaining about the fact that no sympathy may I ever find. And the idea of friendship, therefore, and love is tied up with the very idea of creativity, that is affection for other people, because you find yourself to have something in common with them, to be like them. Remember that in Genesis, the sentence about the creation of man, God made man in his image. In the image of God created he him. The very sentence is itself a mirror image in which God and his creation sort of trade places. They're versions of each other in this way. And God does love the human beings that he created, although it's sometimes hard to understand that love for mere mortals. Whereas Frankenstein does not. And here the creature, after reading Paradise Lost, really comes after Frankenstein. Accursed creator, why did you form a monster so hideous that even you turned from me in disgust? God, in pity, made man beautiful and alluring after his own image, but my form is a filthy type of yours. Okay? God made man beautiful and alluring? I mean, boy, are we slipping down from from Kantian beauty when we bring up the idea of the alluring. That's a very breathtaking thing for somebody to say, not only that man was created to be alluring, but that he was created in God's image, which is alluring. Mary Shelley was a brave person in her day. So the creature, even though Frankenstein is a lousy aesthetician, the creature understands that what beauty is really mirroring and recognition of that mirroring as a kind of creative act all in itself. Reciprocity, identification, love between a being and what is created. And because he needs another to love in this way, even though she won't be very beautiful, he asks Frankenstein to make him a female monster, and of course Frankenstein refuses. And the refusal to create a race of monsters is presented as the Promethean gift of Frankenstein to human beings. That is, he refused to create a race of monsters that would be bigger and stronger than people and would ultimately kill them. And therefore, he has sacrificed all that he cares about in order to save human beings. But this idea of preventing the breeding of the outside monster is a form of eugenics that he is practicing quite literally, that is based on an aesthetics of perfectibility. You know, the reason that you don't want to create a race of monsters is, God forbid, that they should breed with normal human beings and turn all of people, all of creation into monsters. This is the hidden fear behind his destruction of the female monster. So Mary Shelley is, I think, really advocating a kind of humanistic grounding of beauty in the equality and interdependence of creator and creation, of mirroring and empathy. And the ultimate irony of Frankenstein, the book, is that this lesson is never remembered. Nobody thinks that that is what is happening in Frankenstein. Instead, we love it for the sublime thrills that it gives us, for the touch with that which is boundless and limited and illegal and beyond the human sphere. And we do love it. After all, we all have a taste for the sublime. But Mary Shelley wishes that we would at least modify it a bit with a kind of care about the charming and the alluring and the self-interested that is involved in the recognition of yourself and all your best interests in your children and your artworks.